Hi, I'm Kenji.
And I'm Vic. And this is Drone Take Two.
Hi, I'm Kenji.
And I'm Vic, and this is the Drone Service Provider Alliance podcast number 3.
We're really excited to bring two fantastic people to our podcast today. First up is Greg Reverdiau of the Pilot Institute. And then after that, we have Jakee Stoltz from 107 Waivers. We'll be covering operations over people, specifically Category 1, those drones under 250 grams.
Hey, thank you guys for having me. Always appreciate talking to you. It's always so insightful. So I'm glad to be on the other side. Usually you guys are coming on my show. So yes, we have been doing some cool testing. So I have one right here. That's not the one we've been testing. That's just the Tello. You can fly the Tello over people. It is a Category 1. It's got prop guards. It's all good. Now, what we've been really doing is, I had two questions when all of this started. The first one is, obviously, like a lot of people have been asking, is the Mini a Category 1 drone and can I fly it over people? And, we've been telling people no, no, no. And then after a while, I started thinking, I said, does the Mini actually create lacerations when it hits someone with the propellers? And we've seen people, getting cuts from different types of drones, but the regulation says to qualify as a Category 1, you need to not have rotating parts that create lacerations. So that was kind of step one. We kind of took a step back. Instead of assuming the fact that it does create lacerations, we actually went out and we tested it. Now, we didn't test it on humans, obviously. That's not what we do. But we had to kind of research a skin-like texture, if you want. So I reached out to, I have a lot of friends in the medical community, and they kept coming back with the same answer. And I kept shaking my head. I'm not going to make a video out of this. But they wanted me to use pig feet. And because pig feet is actually the closest thing that you have to actual skin in terms of human skin, that's what they use when they do training for medical professionals. So I bit the bullet and I actually got pig skin. And we tested props on pig skin. And the results were actually really interesting. And I'll walk you through kind of the thought process behind all of this, and then I'll get to the conclusion in a second. But I want you to test two things. I know people love to have carbon props. So we actually tested carbon props on the Mini, and we did normal props. And I wanted to see if there was going to be a difference, because we know carbon. I have carbon props on my Inspire 2, and these things are razor blades, and you can get in trouble with those. So I wanted to see if it did anything on the Mini. So we started with the Mini. We basically had this thing hanging on fish lines, and we went outside and we had the pig feet available, nice and fresh. And we basically just went slowly into the pig feet, and then we saw what happened. So, and then as we did the second test, we went a little faster and a little bit faster. And the first test, I was actually a little bit worried, because the first test that we did, there was no laceration. It was really just a very gentle abrasion on top of the pig skin. And I thought to myself, I said, what are the implications of what we just found? If we can prove that the Mini cannot create lacerations on this pig feet, then and we get this to the world, and we're going to see a whole lot of people flying over people with just a Mini 2 or a Mini and thinking that they're not going to create any issues. So, we had 3 pig feet. And so the first one kind of went through, and the more I was touching the skin, and the more I felt like it was a little bit dry on the skin side. So we tried a different piece. We put a different piece on, we did the exact same testing, and sure enough, that was a clear laceration in the pig skin. So we're actually working on the video right now. I know when you guys release this video, ours will be live on our channel. So if you want to see the actual pictures of what we got, we actually did get clear laceration, something that would be bleeding through your finger, and something that would not be acceptable. So I was really worried for a while. Actually, if you can see the behind the scenes shots, I'm like, this is not something that I want to put out at the moment, because it's got big implications in the industry, about what's going to happen in the future. So we did the same thing. We put propellers, we put the carbon props on there, and we sent it again. And sure enough, the lacerations were a lot deeper. And we're talking about lacerations that are several inches long that you would get on your finger. So it's something that would definitely hurt, definitely bleed. And the prop guards were definitely more pronounced than they were with the normal props. What I had in my head is that, with these props, and this is the Mini right here with cages on it, but, the props being able to rotate and then kind of fold on themselves like this. I thought that maybe these props, that's what they would do in flight. But this thing, I tell you, the Mini is absolutely amazing with hitting objects. And I hate to say it this way, but we flew this thing at a pretty decent speed straight into our object. And you know what it did? It dropped. It sometimes went sideways, and every single time it came right back into the direction that it was in and just flying. Every single time. We didn't break one propeller. We didn't break a leg. We didn't break anything on this, and we tried several times. And the only time that we broke something was the carbon props. The carbon propellers actually detached from the screws, and it looks like the screws came off. By the way, these props, I don't recommend them. They were very noisy, very shaky. The drone wasn't nearly as stable as it was using these propellers that we get on Amazon. But yeah, it was a really interesting experiment that we did. And we actually did the Mavic Air 2 as well. So we flew the Mavic Air 2 to see the difference. Obviously, it's not a Category 1 drone, but I wanted to see the difference with the much larger propellers. We only were able to do one flight. As soon as we hit, the drone fell. Unlike the Mini basically stayed pretty stable. We were a foot off the ground. I mean, we were just a foot off the ground. And as soon as we hit it, it fell on the side, and the front leg bent and broke on the Mini 2. I can see Jason in the back of the office. He's pointing at the part. But yeah,
Mini 2 or the Air?
The Air 2.
Okay.
The Air 2 broke right away. Yeah, the Air 2 broke right away. So we only got to do one flight. This is the same drone that we used to test the parachute, and the parachute didn't deploy. So that's our crash test dummy now. It's got it's got its name. So we're gonna fix it, and it's gonna be ready for the next Drone Busters episode that we have. Cool. But yeah, those were the findings in terms of laceration and crashing into a human-like substance.
So
the pig. Oh, go ahead, Kenji.
No, so for the Mini 2 at least, did it go through how many layers did it go through with the regular props?
It went through the fat for sure of the skin, and if you did it on your finger, you would be able to see the skin and cut through the skin, and you'd definitely be bleeding profusely from that cut.
Interesting. How fresh were the pig's feet? It's actually a serious question.
I know it is a serious question. About 2 days old.
Oh wow! Okay.
So yeah, pretty fresh.
What speeds did you run the drone into the pig's feet?
First test was really just getting close to it and then just hitting it this way so that we could get the longest amount of time in contact with the object, which I thought actually would be the worst. And then actually it felt like the faster we went, and actually the deeper it went as well. So to me, in my head, staying kind of like this and then running it a couple times would create more damage because the prop kept going, but it really didn't. The faster we went, the problem is that we didn't have much of an area to hit, so we had to go, I would say maybe 5 miles an hour is maybe 5 miles an hour is the fastest that we were able to go and hit it. But it's a decent speed. Like if you're moving at 5 or 10 miles an hour into the object, that's kind of how fast we were going to hit it.
Did the front legs ever fold up on impact?
One time.
Okay.
One time on impact, we got one of the leg, and then the drone folded and then landed, and the prop stopped basically right away. So yeah, we got one impact where it was fast enough for that.
It's interesting. We need to get Bardwell out to fly the drone into the pig's feet so you can go real fast.
So we were trying to do an FPV drone. Jason on my team, he has an FPV drone. He has a 5-inch, and we were trying to see, because these props don't fold, right? So we were trying to really hit it. The problem is that the surface area that we had was so small that we could never really hit it right on the spot to get a good mark. And flying FPV without altitude control and anything, it's difficult. I mean, it was difficult enough for me to be right behind the drone with the Mini and go and hit that surface area spot on. And we tried probably, 20 times before we got probably a good, out of 20 or 25, we probably got 8 good hits on the prop. But really every time it was fairly conclusive that that's a cut. Now, one of the problem is the FAA doesn't define what a cut actually is, or what the language that they use in the regulation. There's no actual definition. We look at medical definitions, and there is not really a clear medical definition either. So it's tough. It's a judgment call, really.
Mm-hmm.
I did a little research this morning because I knew we were going to be talking about this. And actually, I did find what the FAA was interpreting as laceration. It's in the preamble of the final rule. And it says the FAA distinguishes between a laceration, meaning a cut that goes all the way through the skin and may require emergent medical attention, and an abrasion, meaning superficial injury. So there's wording in there that at least interprets it, whether that's a definition. I mean, yes, technically it's a definition, goes through, what does it say, all the way through the skin and may require, but the skin is a two-layer process, right? Or not a process, but 2 layers. So it sounds like it was a laceration in your tests.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's interesting. You know, I looked in the regulation, I looked in the preamble, and I actually couldn't find that part. So I'm going to go back and see if I can find what you just said. Do you have a page number, maybe?
I have page number. It is page 4332.
4332.
Yeah, and I just went through all 22 times they said the word lacerate. That's where I found it.
I did the same thing. So I must
laceration, actually, I'm sorry, laceration. There's 36 times it says laceration. So that's how I found it.
Yeah, it's so it's going to be a really interesting thing, because like I said, on our first test, it was definitely not conclusive, and then on the second test, it was a lot more conclusive. It looks like a piece of skin that was a lot less dry. The first one was pretty dry, and it seems like, you know, if you had callus on your feet, for example, that's kind of how it felt to the touch. And in the second pass, it wasn't definitely conclusive on the second pass.
Interesting.
Now,
this is some interesting data.
Yeah. Now, here's a question for you. Did you ever consider using something like the synthetic skin?
I did, but based on what my friends were saying from the medical field, pretty much every single one of them just said, because we looked at ballistic gel, which is not really what the purpose of ballistic gel is for. Mm-hmm. And then I looked at some of the stuff that I found on Amazon that was just a synthetic skin for practicing, but I wasn't sure if it was going to be really like a layer of skin. You know, when you have the pig feet, I mean, it's actually a little bit creepy. If you look at the pig skin closely, if I take a picture of it really close, it just looks like a very pale person. That the skin in itself just look exactly like it. It's got fat underneath it, a little layer of fat, and then you can see the meat behind it. So it's yeah, I thought it was really realistic.
Could you see into the meat and the lacerations if you pried them apart?
Yes.
You're getting gross, man.
Hey, I'm Southern. We use pig's feet for something entirely different. But what can I say?
True enough. So from your observations, you're thinking that the Mini 2 without cages wouldn't qualify under Category 1, correct?
No, and that's correct. And I thought about this for a while because again, after the first test, I took a break and I was really thinking of the implications of what we were finding. And then I thought about, what if it hits you in the face? You know, the skin in the face is completely different than the skin on your arm, I think. I think it's a lot more fragile. And if this hits you in the face at whatever speed you want, there's going to be blood. And it's not something that, you know, from a safety perspective, I don't think it's something that I really want to advertise, quite frankly. I don't think it's the safe thing to do. So I think we have to we can read between the lines of the regulation maybe at one point, but there are some things that just put a prop guard on it. You know, it's tough. It's a tough balance between saying, yeah, we got a test and it's very conclusive, and then yes, we have, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You had also mentioned at one point using the Japanese batteries for
Yes.
the Mini. How did that go?
It's right here. Actually, I'm going to get my little scale, if I can find it in my office right here. I don't know what we did with it. We've been playing with it for a while. Oh, there it is. Okay, so this right here is a Mini 1 Japanese battery. And if I put this on the scale, it actually weighs in at 48 grams, which is about half of the normal Mini 1 battery. And when you put the prop guards on this,
Half?
Yeah, half, because it's a one cell. Yeah, it's weird because if you actually touch right here, let me get, hey Jason, can you get me a regular Mini 1? So if you actually touch on the side, you can't feel anything. It's just empty. So they only have one cell right in the middle, I feel, inside of this battery. So if we look at the weight of this thing right here, without the battery in it and without the cover, okay? So if I put this right on here, we are at 195 grams. So the drone in itself without the battery in it is 195 grams. And if I put the battery inside, then we're actually well below the 250 gram. We're 243. So 243
Wow.
grams with this battery. So this, and it has a card. It has an SD card in it. So we're good on that front. Yeah, this battery, this is actually an original Mini 1 battery right here, 99 grams. So
Wow.
48 versus 99 grams. Obviously, your flight time is a lot less on the thing. I haven't taken it all the way to the end because we were doing different testing with it.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, this is kind of the solution. The problem is you can't find this in the US. You would not believe the amount of trouble that I had to go through to get this. I first purchased 3 of these on a Japanese website, and then there's a company that will actually let you receive the shipment in Japan, and then they will ship it to you because Japan does not ship directly internationally. So with DJI, you had to ship this to a third party first. And then when they went through the offer, the order, they said, well, we can't do that because we can't ship batteries by themselves. They have to be inside of a device, inside of a UAS like this. I said, okay, well, I said, fine, I'll spend the money and I'll get another Mini. I have 2 of them. I have the original Mini, the Mini 2. I've been testing them. So I ended up buying another one of these, which is this one is actually the Japanese version. So it says 199 on the side right here, 199 grams. Even though it's exactly the same aircraft, the difference is the battery. So I bought a whole brand new aircraft just to get 1 battery. I was going to buy 3 batteries, but internationally you cannot ship 3 batteries. You can only ship a maximum of 2. So they don't have a package where you can buy just 2 batteries. So I ended up with only 1 battery, 1 brand new aircraft just to be able to fly over people. So it's not cheap. I definitely don't recommend it for other people. I guess what DJI can sell these in the US, then make a killing because they'll convert any drone into, a category 1 drone, really, a Mini or Mini 2.
I think Kenji and I talked with Brendan about this, and Brendan said those are not the Japanese battery is not approved for importation into the United States yet. So apparently there's a process. I don't know why, but maybe there's some testing that has to be done. But you DJI folks out there listening to this, how about you do that for us? And do you know if the Mini 2 has a Japanese battery option?
This is the Mini 2.
Oh, the Mini 2. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So this is actually the Mini 2 right here, and so interestingly, the Japanese version, they still use the old design of the Mini battery, which is the black one as opposed to the gray one. So this is technically a Mini 1 battery, but they put it in the Mini 2 Japanese version. Okay. And it fits. But those batteries, by the way, you can use a Mini 1 battery and a Mini 2 without a problem. So it's
what's the weight difference between the Mini 1 and the Mini 2 with the Japanese battery in it?
Well, that's a good question. Hold on. Are you having me take my set off? This is the Mini right here. So tell me again, the Mini.
1 with the Japanese battery, and then the Mini 2 with the Japanese battery.
All right, let's see this. Here. Mini 1 with the Japanese battery is 198.
And if you add the prop guards, how much do you think it'll weigh?
I don't remember how much the prop guards weigh.
Prop guards weigh 45 grams.
45 grams. Okay. So
okay. I mean, I have another Mini. Like I told you, I have a lot of these Minis because I keep trying to buy them.
Well, if you keep crashing them into pig's feet, you'll need more than 1.
Yeah.
No, actually, well, this one surprisingly. So this is the Mini 2 American version with the Japanese battery in it. 211.
211. So plus.
Oh wait, no, sorry. Hold on, I had the cover on it. That doesn't count.
Okay, all right.
Not a fair comparison. So 206.
And that's the Mini 1?
That's the Mini 2.
Oh, Mini 2.
206.
So that's over by
versus
1 gram.
198. I forgot to take the cover. So 206 versus 198. So the Mini 2 is a little bit heavier by
the
8
Mini
grams.
2 with prop guards will be over.
Over by 1 gram. So you better get your Dremel tool out.
No,
Wait a minute.
No, because this is the Mini 2 that has the prop guards on it. So it's
Oh,
fine.
they're not interchangeable prop guards?
No, they are. But when I put everything in
the
here,
prop guards are listed, as Vic just said, 45 grams.
Oh, I weighed mine this morning.
Oh, did you? Okay.
I'm at 243 right now with everything
Wow.
included.
Okay,
so,
the math doesn't add up. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Then the Mini 2.
Mini
But
2
Mini
works.
2 with prop guards and a Japanese battery is compliant.
Oh,
Awesome.
wow. So everybody
And
DJI.
so is a Mini.
yeah,
Get those
everybody
batteries
needs to
in the
weigh their drone.
Yeah. But if you do, what everybody wants to do, which is put prop guards on the Mini 2 and the original battery, then now you're at 293 grams. So you're
That's not
way
gonna
over.
work. No, that's
You're
way
way
over.
over. Yeah.
That's going to take a lot of Dremel work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We talk about weight, but one thing that's tied in with weight, of course, is kinetic energy.
Mhm.
And you mentioned to us in an email that you found some very interesting sort of kinetic energy testing results. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, I wanted to really figure out what this kinetic energy, I mean, I understand the concept, it's energy as it hits, as an object falls, really. So I wanted to look at two things. I wanted to look at how much kinetic energy does one of these things produce when it's either free falling or when it's flying at full speed into someone, okay? And we did it without the prop guards. It's just a calculation, really. To calculate the free fall of an object, you need to look at the surface area. So we actually measured the surface area of this object. We went a little bit bigger just to have a margin. And then we calculate the free fall speed. And it's about 41 miles an hour for the Mini 2. Now, interestingly, I crashed the Mavic Air 2 during a test that we did with parachutes. And the Mavic Air 2 was free falling at about 44 miles an hour, which is fast. That thing, when it came down, it was pretty scary, actually. But the Mini 2 on paper theoretically would fall at 41 miles an hour in free fall. If you do this and you do the kinetic energy calculation with a 250 gram weight, you find that it's about 26 foot-pound of kinetic energy. Wow. And that's over basically what is allowable under Category 3. So that was an interesting finding to me. Then I dug a little bit, and then I found an article from Pair Zero that they posted recently, and they actually shared some information about the difference in kinetic energy with and without a parachute. Obviously, they're in the parachute business, so they want to prove that using a parachute is a great thing, which it is. So extrapolating the data that they had, they didn't have anything for the Mini or for the Mavic Air 2, but it's a straight line. It's a straight line curve, so you can pretty much extrapolate on each side. Mm-hmm. It goes down to about 4 foot-pound of kinetic energy for the Mini 2 if it had a parachute on it. Mm-hmm. So 4, definitely super acceptable. Now, I have the data right here that I'm reading to you guys. If we look at a Mavic Air 2 falling without a parachute, that's about 80 foot-pound of kinetic energy, which is a lot. That's a 570 gram drone, half a pound. With a parachute, it's about 5.3 foot-pound. So very, very acceptable with a parachute. Phantom 4 Pro, technically, terminal velocity is about 120 miles an hour, which is a lot when this thing falls. It's 1.3 kilos. That would be about 1,400 foot-pound of kinetic energy if it falls on someone. Yeah. With a parachute, about 8.4 based on the data that we get from Pair Zero, and we extrapolated for that weight. So The reason I did this math is because in my head I was thinking, everybody's talking about what is going to be a category 2 drone, what is going to be a category 3 drone. Mm-hmm. And the only way that we're going to get there is with a parachute. I don't see any other way that a manufacturer is going to approve this, or the FAA is going to approve this without having a parachute on it. So I think in the future, when we see a drone, the Phantom 5, if it ever comes out, there might be an option for a category Phantom 5 with an additional parachute that you buy, and then it becomes a category 2 or category 3 drone. My guess probably category 2 based on that data.
Isn't there an exemption for a drone that actually falls apart on impact? I'm trying to remember the exact name of it.
I don't think frangible is a thing with it. It's all performance based. So I think, yeah, if your drone disintegrates on impact, that certainly dissipate the energy.
Yeah.
But I don't remember seeing anything written exception wise.
I think CNN flew it. I have a distinct memory of that. I'll need to double
under a waiver. Under a waiver, is that what you're talking about?
Was it a waiver or an exemption? It might. You're right. It might have been a waiver. Okay.
I can't remember on that. I know CNN had their fair share, definitely.
Yeah.
But it probably.
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think what's going to happen is that the manufacturers are just going to get very creative with trying to meet that regulation. It's performance based, so really they could do whatever they want as long as they meet the requirement, and as long as the FAA is okay with the information that is being sent to them. Yeah. Then they'll, if they're comfortable, they'll rubber stamp it.
So here's another question for you, Greg. When you did your testing, when you did the sort of the calculations, you did it on the bottom, correct? But now, did you do it on the front? Because the front's going to have a much smaller sort of impact area, which is, in terms of the kinetic energy, it's going to be higher because you're focusing it in on a smaller area.
Yeah, I did not. That's actually a good point. For me, I was thinking in my head, this thing is falling from the sky and then falling on someone, which I think in terms of flying over people, that's what we're all worried about.
Yeah.
When we did the laceration test, it was different because I was thinking of what is the worst case scenario, which is somebody flying into someone.
Yeah.
In this case, because when they talk about laceration in the regulation, they don't really say it's laceration caused by rotating parts when the drone is falling. Mm-hmm. They just basically say it's laceration caused by rotating parts. End of discussion.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So
now here's the other thing. When you watch the Mavic Air sort of crash, did you see which direction it was going? Is there a tendency to fall in a certain way? I'm just out of curiosity.
When it hits something,
or when it falls out of the air?
So interestingly, the only test that we did was the Mavic Air 2, and that was unfortunate because, well, I hate to say it, but I forgot to push the parachute button to turn it on when we did the testing. So it happens. But we were doing testing of this Amazon parachute, and we put the parachute on top of the Mavic Air 2. And what happened is when it didn't deploy, the drone actually flipped and it fell on its top.
Back,
okay. And it fell flat this way. And what's really interesting about it is no broken leg, no broken prop. No, the only thing that broke is the plastic on the gimbal basically broke, snapped, and then the camera was hanging. As a matter of fact, I didn't even know that, but it kept recording because in our hurry to go get it, I forgot to turn off the recorder, and it was still recording. It was still hanging there and working just fine. And I replaced it since then. But yeah, it fell flat basically at 40 miles an hour, just down like this on its top.
Okay, that's fascinating in terms of the kinetic energy analysis that you did. That the Mini 2 has a pretty significant kinetic energy impact that exceeds Category 3 in some circumstances. So,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's kind of from the FAA standpoint, obviously this wouldn't qualify as a Category 2 or Category 3 if we looked at it this way, but it's allowed to be flown over people without problem. Now, I take this with a grain of salt, obviously, because I still do think that a drone like this flying over people, the risk of it falling is still fairly minimal. The risk of this creating a lot of damage, I think, is still pretty minimal. So, yeah, numbers are interesting, but they don't always tell the full story, I think.
Yep. I'd like to see 300 300 grams, that magic number, or 400 grams, that magic number, because that Mini or the Mini 2 with prop guards is a very safe drone, even falling out of the
Yeah.
sky.
I agree. I don't think 50 grams would make that much of a difference. The 50 grams that you save, from these two batteries, the difference between these two, I don't think it has that much of an impact. No pun intended.
Well, the rule is the rule, right? So
That's right.
maybe
That's
the
right.
next iteration that it might change, but for now, that's what we're stuck with.
Yep. They do say though in the I'm trying to find my notes here, see if I can get that one. On page 4325, they're talking about the timing, retrospective. The FAA will undertake a study to determine if the limit should be raised and perform a retrospective review of this rule. So is it written in stone? Maybe sandstone, and maybe it could be ground out and changed. So there's hope. There's hope in the future, and I think if we push this a lot, maybe something along those lines, and just say, hey, you know what, we're not seeing the issue. Let's go with props. Let's bump up the safety factor along with the with the weight factor. And I personally think I have no evidence whatsoever. But I think it'd be safer to have a Mavic Mini or Mini 2 with prop guards flying over people than without, even if it's under 250 grams.
And there is hope. We've gone from having to submit a waiver to fly over people to now being able to do it with special equipment. My fear, I think my biggest fear at the moment is misinformation.
Bingo.
And people not doing this the right way and getting us in trouble down the line, where if we wanted to go back and say, hey, listen, this has been safe, and they're like, well, no, it's not, because look at all the people doing all these crazy things. So that's my only fear at the moment. That's why I'm trying to put as much content, and I know you are too, Vic and Kenji, because we've talked about this before, but there's such misinformation at the moment. People see a title that says, hey, you can fly over people, and now it's like, okay, free for all, we can
no. Not even
and you can't. So yeah, that's what our
it's
video is all about.
Oh yeah, and it's gonna be the education aspect of, like, what we do is either DSPA or Pilot Institute or Drone Pros or whatever. We need to get that education out there and say, you better know the rules, because you don't want to mess this up. Baby steps, folks.
Agreed.
What's going to be interesting if I ever get ram checked by the FAA is having to explain to them that this is a battery that is not the same as everybody else, and that this is indeed legal to fly over people.
Better take your scales with you.
That's right, my little pocket scale.
Perfect. Well, Greg, that was awesome information.
It was.
Really appreciate the time, and appreciate the effort that you went through to put this all together and come out with this data. So yeah, thank you. And will this report be available on the Pilot Institute, or what's going to happen with it?
Yep. Yeah. So we're actually editing the video. I know we're a few days from when you guys are going to post, but on the 21st, we will be posting the video on our YouTube channel. So you'll be able to see it there. You'll be able to see kind of the process that we went through, how we flew the drones into there, and then posting the pictures as well of the laceration. So we did some close-ups so you can see exactly what it looks like. And hopefully make your own conclusions. Again, it is difficult to come up with a definitive conclusion because of the lack of actual true definition of a laceration. But to me, looking at the damage that it did, this is definitely something that I would want to stay away from, and I wouldn't want to exercise on someone.
Absolutely.
Great. It's definitely something to consider. And then what we'll also do is we'll put a link in the description to the video as soon as you release it, so people can just check out our video and then hop over to yours to check out what you're talking about and what we've been talking about. Thanks a lot again, Greg, and we'll catch you soon.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks. Yep. Bye. That was Greg Reverdiau from the Pilot Institute. Next up, we have Jakee Stoltz from 107 Waivers.
Thanks for having me on today. Glad to be joining you guys and giving you a little insight into some DJI Mavic Mini testing that we did actually quite a while ago. So it was actually like late 2019, so about a year and a half ago, Brent, my co-founder, and I we were kind of sitting there like going, this Mavic Mini is small. It actually kind of meets, there was two things out at the time, right? There was the micro arc, which had some recommendations out that, drones under 250 grams could operate unrestricted over people. The FAA's NPRM for operations over people was actually out at that time, again, saying, yeah, drones under 250 grams could operate unrestricted over people. And so we're thinking they're going like, we can do this. We can get a waiver to 10739A, just based on the weight alone. But we said, we can do better than just the weight. Like, let's do some testing on this thing. And we did. So
Yeah, that's cool.
I can get into the testing, but I'll pause there. And
Well, we definitely want to talk a little bit about the testing, about what you found, and the different definitions you went off of, and how deep, long, etc.
Yeah.
I'm going to put lacerations in quotation marks actually were. But Kenji, what were you going to add?
Oh no. It's fairly interesting because the Mavic Mini is small, but is it small enough? Because there's some pretty strict thresholds on that.
Yep. Yeah. So the test. Yeah. So there was really two questions that we wanted to answer with the testing. So number one, is it light enough?
Uh-huh.
And that was pretty easy. I mean, we just grabbed a kitchen scale and threw our Brent and I both had Mavic Mini, so we threw them both on the scale, and they are. So there's a little variation, of course, with manufacturing, but they're actually a couple grams under 250. So you got a little flexibility in there even. So we, I guess, confirmed, yes, it is under 250 grams. But then kind of the next question in our minds was, could it cut somebody? The propellers, your face or whatever it is. This again was kind of pre-rule, so we didn't know that laceration was going to be a requirement for Cat 1.
Mm-hmm.
But we thought, hey, let's see how safe this thing really is or not. So we were both familiar with the Assure's ground impact report, their final report that they put out. And in that report didn't get extensively into laceration testing, but it did start to look at it. So it was kind of one of the gaps that they acknowledged out of that final report, but they did do an initial test with mainly like a Phantom 4 size propeller. And basically they created this pendulum that swung some synthetic skin into it.
Mm-hmm.
And, and then you could see the resulting cuts, and we're like, yeah, we can do that. We can rig up some pendulum thing and swing some synthetic skin. The report actually had the name of the synthetic skin that they use, called Syndaver. And you can just order it online in different, basically different strengths, I'll call it. Cool. So, you can get like the, back of your hand kind of thin stuff, or you can get a little more muscle tissue in it. So we kind of ordered some that we thought was kind of middle ground, not too thick, not too thin, maybe kind of forearm, strength if you're shielding yourself from a drone coming down. And we built this kind of pendulum basically out of a ladder and some string, and we calculated the weight and everything to try and get the right kinetic energy that a Mavic Mini would have kind of swinging into somebody. And we spent all night basically swinging skin into propellers. So it was actually a lot of fun, but our results, so we do have a report that kind of details all this, and it covers all the testing that we did and how we set it up and the calculations. And basically that report's going to be available free to download. But essentially we determined that even like full speed motors, full climb scenario, really you just get a kind of a bad paper cut at the end of the day. So it's kind of a result. So we can kind of talk about how maybe that fits into these laceration definitions.
That'd be perfect.
Yeah. Sure. It sounds Jakee, sounds like your last name should be MacGyver, because it seems like
I give a lot of credit to Brent. I think he's the one that came with this ridiculous pendulum. We weighted it with like coins and stuff, but
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So can we also, so we'll be able to find a copy of your report. Will that be available on your website, or how can people get access to it?
Yeah. So we're going to have kind of a blog post just outlining this story that we're going over here. And I think you guys will also be hosting that on your website. And in that post, there'll be a link basically to download the report.
Okay.
And I'm sure we'll be, sharing it on social media, basically whatever we can do to get it out there.
Perfect. If you send us that link, we'll drop it into sort of the comment section or the right below the YouTube thing. We'll drop that link in, and then also the Assure report. I bet some of the geeks out there really want to take a look at that. So if you could send that link over, we'll drop that in the video description too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more in terms of the process and the numbers and all the goodness that people want to hear about, and just tell us more.
Yeah, I think the idea that we took is, there are great research universities out there. I mean, Assure is a big conglomeration of a bunch of them, and there's a lot of sort of really robust, testing that's going on out there. But, we were thinking to ourselves, I mean, why can't, anybody sort of do testing like this? And it maybe doesn't have to be specific to, laceration testing or whatever, but the FAA is always looking for data. And, I think people sometimes think, well, I have to go to like a research university to get that. I can't possibly do it. And so I feel like maybe we're trying to show kind of this mold where just anyday people can test, something, this concept of operation, whatever it is, and put together data to support something. So, I mean, Brent is an engineer. I'm a pilot by trade. So again, a lot of credit to him for mathing and all sorts of things. But yeah, we really just tried to replicate, the energy of a Mavic Mini, flying into something, and just consistent results. So we had kind of a bench setup where we clamped a DJI Mavic Mini arm to it. So we bought some extra just arms, and we actually connected it up to, you guys are probably familiar, Vic, maybe more so, with Betaflight and like the FPV racing community. So we actually got a flight controller and connected that in so that we could control the speed of the motor instead of just, like turning the drone on and climbing. So we would set certain like PWM speeds in Betaflight to get the motor exactly the same every time, and just show consistency. And then we repeated it a bunch. And we'd kind of turn the skin a little bit each time, but we ended up with 2 pieces of skin that had, a dozen trials on them. And the crazy thing was they all looked the same,
Wow.
Which I guess kind of told us we were onto something. We didn't see like wide variations. Like one time it cut all the way through, one time it didn't. They were all very similar, basically 2 little cuts, spaced a couple millimeters apart. And again, it's like a severe paper cut, but when we talk about this laceration definition that the FAA chose, it did not cut through all the way. So, that's where we're saying we think the Mavic Mini could be flown under Cat 1 as is. So
Yeah, definitely. Constant data is good data.
Yeah.
If we learn nothing else from Mythbusters, we learned that. So,
yeah.
Congrats to both of them for getting that out there for us. But yeah, definitely consistent data. The FAA loves data, and the FAA really loves consistent data. And you didn't have the definition of the preamble of the new rules, because obviously you did this before the new rules came out. But I did find it with what I wouldn't say definition, I'm going to say interpretation. The FAA on page 4332 actually, of the new OOP rules. FAA distinguishes between laceration, meaning a cut that goes all the way through the skin and may require emergent medical attention, and an abrasion, meaning superficial injury. So I think with what you've done, because Kenji and I did see your test, so thank you for showing that with us. I'm not sure those injuries meet the definition of emergent. What was it? Emergent medical attention. Emergent mean, and I thought it was a misspelling. I thought it meant emergency, so I had to look that up too. Emergent means needing prompt.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yeah, and we agree. in addition to just our testing, we also like went out and kind of scoured the internet for sort of crowdsourced, incidents. And, maybe surprisingly or not, there's people out there doing kind of silly things with Mavic Minis.
Gee, really?
I know, right? Like lots of videos of hand catching, and it flips on you, and they show, they've got cuts on their thumbs. There's a video of a guy just like flying it into his face on accident. I think even it might have been Josh Bardwell did a test where basically they intentionally just stuck their fingers into the props.
Oh, we got to reach out to Josh on that one.
Yeah. So
that.
there was a lot of just sort of anecdotal evidence too
Mhm.
that we were on the right track, and these people again were just ending up with little kind of cuts that they could put a Band-Aid on, and they were good. So
the only time I ever cut myself was hand catching a Mini, and it was first and only time I hand cut something like that. And yeah, it was just like, I was stupid doing it. I wasn't doing it right, so it's totally my fault. Operator error.
Yeah.
It's just like nothing.
The only time I've lacerated myself was back when the old DJIs. I think it was a Phantom 2 when they said take your props off when you upgrade the firmware. That there was a reason for that. And one time that I didn't do it, I got scars on my hand to prove it. So no. But in all seriousness, one of the questions that'll be out there is about eyes. How about eyes?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's the deal with that?
Yeah, so we didn't obviously test that in this, and I think that's where ultimately out of this, we are not, giving legal advice saying you are good to go fly Cat 1 or not. I think that we are just simply kind of presenting a data set that maybe supports a decision, but Category 1 is ultimately PIC self-certified, and there is still a difference between maybe operating hazardously or operating safe, even with this data set. So I think there's ways that a pilot could operate safely to sort of mitigate, flying directly into somebody's eyes or things like that. So
though Vic, is it in the rule? Remember,
the eyes is not actually. Every single time they talk about injuries, it's always lacerate human skin upon contact. And actually, I checked that too this morning. There are 22 times lacerate is mentioned in the preamble and the actual language in the new rules. Laceration is 36 times, but that's not in the rules. It's just in the preamble of the rules. But yeah, they never talk about eye injuries. Whether that was intentional or not, I don't know. But yeah, they're definitely that definition of laceration is the only verbiage they use when it comes to injuries in Category 1, 2, or 3.
Yep. Yeah, I think if it were to happen, I think there's always the catch-all of you operating hazardously, recklessly, and so again, I think there's could always be risks and corner cases, and as long as the pilot's making good aeronautical decision making, I think there's ways to kind of mitigate that. But if you were to fly in somebody's eyes and cause injury, you're going to probably be liable for that.
You're going to be very liable for that, whether you're flying under a category, even under a waiver. You're liable for anything that happens when you're in the air.
Yeah. And probably subject to a civil lawsuit too.
Yeah, definitely.
So you just mentioned, Jakee, that this is not legal advice, right? This is a way, just information, so people can make a decision on their own. Correct. So, is there any other advice that you give to people, or how to use this information?
Yeah, I think it kind of comes down to a couple of things. So, if you choose to sort of agree with the results of the report and you wish to do maybe Category 1 operations with the Mavic Mini, I think there's still some actions that the pilot should take, such as weighing their specific Mavic Mini before flight, because there could be variations. We weighed ours, but that doesn't mean they're all the same. I think it's important that the PIC make sure it's in a stock configuration. So there are aftermarket props and like different things, leg extensions that could be added, and those are not covered in this report. It's just strictly a stock DJI Mavic Mini with no prop guards or anything. And again, I think you still need to operate safely. So there's a difference between maybe buzzing around at head level with this knowledge, or maybe just operating over a construction site, for example, where there's one guy with a hard hat on and you're still, sort of looking for your outs and making sure that you're not just hovering right at the guy's head level. So I still think there's a lot that the PIC should do with this information, but we're just, providing kind of that data set to back up, your aeronautical decision making.
Yep. Or enforce, maybe not back up, because that gets into a liability issue.
Yep.
Yep. Now, the other thing too is we can't fly over sustained flights over open air assemblies until we have remote ID. You put a module on that Mini,
yeah,
it's over 250. So
yep.
That would definitely kill that.
Yep. I know. And we talked a little bit kind of off screen here, but the prop guards, it's kind of the irony of it all is if you add the prop guards, that in theory would make the laceration risk much less, but that actually puts you over the weight. So there's kind of a little irony in those prop guards, but
45 grams.
Yeah.
45 grams, maybe 35 if you took a Dremel to it and still keep the
right.
Structural integrity of them.
Right.
But definitely. Now, the other thing that you had in your report was you and Brent took the Mini and went,
yeah,
so you turned it upside down.
Right.
That would, in theory, kill the props, right?
Yes.
So they're no longer rotating.
Exactly. Yep. In all cases, it does. So our thinking again was, okay, if you're kind of flying, a high above a person and the drone has a technical issue, they typically don't just fall nice flat down. There's some sort of, attitude change very rapidly right at the failure point. So we were thinking, okay, again, if this thing falls down, is it possible that the props could be like spinning full throttle in a technical issue? And our theory was no. And that's kind of what we were trying to show there is any sort of rapid movement shuts the props off, which makes the laceration risk much lower again. So
what about down and in on the sticks?
Yep, that works too. That's right. Yep, we tried flipping it and just doing the stick commands. It does take a couple seconds to initiate that, but again, back to that decision making. So maybe as a pilot, you should fly a little higher to give yourself time to do that if you need to.
And time for your brain to process. Oh, you know what? I should probably kill the props at this point.
What's
Exactly.
the max simulated speed that you did?
Well, we, boy, I don't know off the top of my head. So check the report, but we did do a scenario where we basically just went full stick up climb on the Mavic Mini. So we did kind of two scenarios. We did a nice controlled one with the arm clamped and sort of controlled speed with our PWM signal, just so we could get, again, that consistent result. And for that one, we sort of estimated just like a mid hover throttle, so kind of mid speed. But we did run a couple trials sort of at the end of the day with the actual Mavic Mini clamped on the bench, and we just spun the motors up and went just full climb just to see like what is the worst that could possibly happen. And still, the lacerations. Well, sorry, the paper cuts, not lacerations. They were slightly longer and slightly deeper, but still not, a full cut through or anything like that.
Okay, that's.
Did any of the abrasions? Let's use their wording.
Abrasions, yes.
Go through both levels of skin.
No.
That's the key definition for the FAA.
Yep.
So.
Yep, and we knew that. So the skin that we used had actual different colored layers. So there was kind of, I'm not a medical expert, but dermis and subdermis, things like that. I'm probably using the wrong terms, but anyways, they were different colors. So you could see the top layer was kind of the skin color, and then there was a kind of a reddish layer underneath. So you would see if it cut through based on that color, but none of them.
Those pictures are in your report.
Exactly.
So
yeah,
pretty cool.
Exactly.
And they're not gruesome for those of you with this queasy stomach. It's not like
And
Trust me, you'll see them worse on the.
And one thing that we can do too is actually drop those pictures in the video too in
Yeah.
the post. So that'll be helpful for the folks out there, so they can actually see sort of the preview before the report drops. So you can sort of get an idea of this contraption that Jakee and Brent built, which is pretty amazing. I gotta say.
Cool.
How much in parts was it?
Oh, just a couple $100. Yeah. And again, it's like, it just kind of goes back to, you people out there listening to this, like you can test things and kind of generate your own data to support certain claims. I mean, I think that's what we kind of want to show here. It just takes a couple trips to Menards and some math, and you can do it. So
Menards is in the Midwest, like it's like Home Depot,
right.
Or Lowe's, yep.
or Lowe's.
Yeah.
How about the fake skin? Where'd you get that? Was that expensive?
Oh, it wasn't that expensive. I mean, we just ordered it online. Again, it's called like Sindaver, and you can just Google that. And there's, I think Brent ordered that, so unfortunately he wasn't able to be with us. But it wasn't hard to find. You can just order it. Yeah.
One other question I have too. Go back to the down and in on the sticks. For a while, DJI had tied that into the accelerometer, so you couldn't accidentally shut your motors off in the air. Do you know if that's still a thing?
That is a good question. I don't, because we just tested it basically by holding it. And
right.
We were just sitting there holding it still, and we wore gloves to protect ourselves. But yeah, I don't know actually in air if anybody wants to.
I think I'll try that.
One.
This probably won't make the video. But yeah, I mean, we just get somebody with a net, and I fly 2 feet above them, and I kill the sticks and see if it, in flight, if it'll still work. So,
So here's another question for you.
Goes away.
Do you plan on testing any other drones?
We don't, but I think that's a great idea. I mean, honestly, the Mavic Mini's outdated already with Mavic Mini 2, so I think somebody should absolutely go test it, or maybe we could crowdsource, a couple $100 for some testing.
There you go.
Now, are there any differences? I know there's no difference in the weight. Actually, if you go to the DJI website, the Mavic Mini is 249 grams. The Mavic or the Mini 2 says less than 249 grams. I thought that was kind of an interesting little. They had that little less than sign. But do you know if the props are the same?
I don't. I've never actually seen one. And that's really important too, because the props, that's really, I think, what kind of made the deal here. They're very flexible, they're dull, and they're split, right? So every time that prop is kind of coming around in an arc, the minute it hits something, it basically just like stops dead. So it's really, the prop design was super critical in that.
And the front arms fold up on impact too, which was kind of nice.
Right. Yeah. When we tested it with the Mavic Mini actually on the bench clamped, that did happen. Basically, the impact would just fold the arm in, and all the motors would sort of clack to a stop, in there. So.
Cool.
Wow. Did you even have to replace the props?
We did a couple times, and we had lots of spares. It didn't ever break one, but it would kind of put just like little dents, call them like chips in them. So
not airworthy anymore.
I mean, if you were just flying out there, not over people, maybe it's probably good enough. But yeah, we replaced them a couple times just to
good.
keep the data consistent. So.
Awesome. Well, sounds like that it was an amazing set of experiments with some really cool data coming out of it. That'll be very helpful for the community at large to sort of go through their decision-making process when they come to self-certification under Category 1. Anything else to add? Any other advice? Any tips? Any insights into sort of fun things? I don't know.
Yeah, I think I'm just excited to kind of see what the industry makes of this. I mean, I think the Mavic Mini, it just packs like such a good camera into such a small package, and if you can unlock kind of some ops over people, from like a news media standpoint, that could be really valuable. Construction, I mean, there could just be examples that I'm not even thinking of. So just excited to kind of see what people make of this and how they use it.
Cool. Vic, got any questions?
No, I think it's going to be fun to see what all happens now that the new rules are out. See if people take advantage of this in their decision making, and their safety mitigations. So it could be interesting.
Awesome. Well, Jakee, it's been super informative, and we're looking forward to getting that report out. And we appreciate your time because we know you're a busy guy. So thank you very much on behalf of DSPA and all the members and the folks in the industry. And we're looking forward to more cool things coming out of your shop. So thanks.
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely.
That was definitely fascinating, Vic. It was two different results. What do you think caused that sort of different result?
Oh wow. Well, different mediums, obviously.
Yeah.
You've got the medically suggested pig's feet versus I'm assuming it'd be interesting to do some research in the Sendaver scan or whatever it's called. Just to see if it's close and parallels human skin. Pig's feet, gosh, it's interesting. It's going to be really interesting to see.
It really goes to show that people should do their own testing, right?
Oh yeah. Because you are, as the PIC, the RPIC, it's your responsibility. You better be right. I mean, you better be perfectly right before you put that bird in the air.
Yeah. So from what it seems, it's like the cages prop guards seem to be pretty important. I'm not flying without it. I'm not, I'm not judging anybody, whether it's, Jakee or Greg. I'm not flying my Mavic Mini over a crowd. Without prop guards, but I'm not going to pay $600 for a battery that's only going to last 10 minutes too. So, I think the keys here obviously are DJI's got to get that battery in country. Yeah.
I don't know what the process is. It'd be interesting to find out on that.
Yeah.
And if they could do, they would have an impossible time keeping them on the shelves. I honestly think that. And why they're not here, I don't know. Why? Maybe they are. DJI is a forward-looking company.
It's probably regulatory.
They're waiting,
approval, right?
Yeah. It is regulatory. They're not approved yet. So if they could do that, holy moly! Or if if Autel has something in the wings waiting, they're not stupid either. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
For me, I have my Beta FPV 95X. That's way under 250 with a naked GoPro.
Yeah, exactly. I think mine run in at I haven't weighed them with the new frames yet, but I want to say 224.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly, really light, and enough
light
in there for the supposed RID module if we're still flying these, and whenever those come out,
you can't fly it in wind, but
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Now, I wonder if the telos would cut anybody. I mean, those props are so light. I think
they are light, and they have the built-in prop guards. So the camera blows, but but it's not designed for that. It's not designed for that.
It's designed for educational. You know that. So
exactly. But it is what it is, and it meets the criteria.
Yeah. So as far as I've seen, only the Mini 1 with the cages and the Japanese battery and like the really lightweight stuff really will qualify.
Right.
From the outset. I mean,
yeah, exactly. And that's I think going to be the move. Us moving forward with that. It won't. Still not going to find an RID module.
Yeah,
it's going to throw it over 250.
Yeah.
I think it's either that or the key is the FAA really pushing. Bumping up that magic 250 gram weight to 300, 350, whatever. Maybe it's incremental. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if they could push that to 350, boom. It's the Mini 1, the Mini 2s with prop cages all day long.
That would make sense. I mean, for me, it's the risk analysis. Although it was fascinating with Greg's kinetic energy analysis too, that how high the numbers were on the Mini. It's like, wow, it's pretty significant.
It
Even
is.
outclassing category 3. Wow.
Yeah, it really does. Which leads me to wonder,
Mhm.
where did they come up with those kinetic energy numbers? I mean, why those numbers? I mean, the Assure tests, but
Mhm.
are they going to reconsider those now?
I don't know. I have no clue.
I hope not. I
I
hope
hope
not.
not either. Like they've said, this is a start, right? They'll look at revising things in the future.
Yep. Yep.
And again, it's especially on the regulatory side, we're still very early
Very.
on. So
Very early.
The just being able to get the ops over people, plus the night ops, has been fantastic. So.
It is. Yeah. And speaking of night ops, we're not going to be able to fly our birds at night. Not the Minis. Those Mini 2s with the Japanese batteries, it's going to go over 250.
Unless there's a really light.
Really light. The naked firehouse strobes.
Still needs a power source.
They're all power source, one line, a diode. Call it happy.
Yeah.
I don't see that working very well.
Oh yeah. And one thing we need to do is put a disclaimer on this. So I'm gonna
absolutely.
I'm gonna leave that up to you.
Yeah. No, you're the one with the law degree, dude.
No. You're always
you.
so good. You always disclaim the FAA safety team.
The FAA stuff. Yes, I should disclaim that too, shouldn't I?
Yeah, you should.
Especially
do that
with Greg and I on there.
Yeah.
Okay. Disclaimer. : Nothing we've done, nothing Kenji and I have said, nothing Greg has said, nothing Jakee has said is legal advice. We're just putting the stuff out. These tests have been done with this category 1, either the NPRM language or the final rule language in mind. So it's up to each and every one of you, really, that are watching this to decide if this is what you need to do. If you can throw your Mini 1 up or your Mini 2 up with just a US battery. My official stance is no, but it's up to you individually. And yeah, nothing we've said is legal advice. It's all just information dissemination.
Yep. Just be safe. Get out there, have fun, fly, do what you need to do, but just make sure that you have all your bases covered.
Yep. Safety first, second, third, and last.
Exactly. All right.
Cool.
Well, Vic, I think that wraps up another episode.
It really does. Yeah. It's our, I think it's going to be our best one yet of 3.
Well, on that note, thanks everybody for watching, and we'll catch you next time.
Yep. Don't forget to subscribe, and please consider joining us.